Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Board of Selectmen's call to order July 11th, 2024 at 5:05 p.m. We're going to be going into executive session per MRSA 1 subsection 405-6E, consultations between the Select Board and its attorney concerning the legal rights and duties of the body. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Okay. Is John on or no?
John will be on conference.
Oh, okay. All right, so we have a first and second. I guess we're going to go ahead and,
Move in.
yeah. We'll be back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We were in executive session. I'd like to come out of executive session. Could I have a motion?
Motion,
So-
moved.
Have it first?
Second.
All in favor? We're out of executive session. There was no decisions made. Excuse me. Item 3, approve the June 27th, 2024 Selectmen's meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a correction.
Go ahead.
It's on the list of the selectmen
Oh,
that
right,
we
the
agreed to.
change.
So John and I, so I'll go, John was going to do the Southern Plain Manning, but that will remain me.
So what did you say?
The Southern Maine Planning, Regional Planning
It's gonna
Committee
be Gilbert.
will be Gilbert instead of Dykstra.
And
Okay.
Then, are you swapping?
No,
Oh, okay, just that one change.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, is that it? Okay. So I have a first and second. Have a motion? I mean, can I have,
With that amendment?
yes, yeah, I thought we were all set on that.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Okay,
Okay.
all right, so, public forum, this is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda. Come on up. Please state your name, where you're from.
Hi, I'm Stefan Kunsel. I'm from, well, kind of all over the place. I'm summer resident, property owner in Cape Porpoise. And I wanted to bring up the causeway and sort of kayak access in town in general. I know that, things have changed at the causeway with the construction project there. And I saw the boat ramp / kayak launch committee's sort of activity over the past couple of years with trying to find a replacement for a boat ramp in the Cape Porpoise area. Looked like they sort of went in the direction of going with the boat ramp but abandoning the kayak access. And I just wanted to, bring that up, see if there's any, intent of trying to provide access to the public for paddling in Cape Porpoise.
Well, we do have a boat launch. It is public, but there's no parking whatsoever there. And we're not set up for commercial.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that we might be able to look at something in the future, but right now we have no access for commercial kayaks. We lost that when we had to we had to re-agree to a new agreement with the Stonehaven people.
Yeah.
So we could be able to go ahead and do what we had to do with the causeway.
So, but the boat ramp on Langsford Road is only for motor boat access, right? Kayakers aren't allowed there?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's not necessarily a commercial thing, it's more of a paddlecraft versus motor boat.
Yeah, the boat launch committee had been looking at a kayak ramp, for lack of a better word, kayak entrance, when they were looking at the sites. And I know that they said they were going to come back when they brought forward the Langsford Road entrance. They didn't think that was going to be suitable to do motorized and kayaks, but they were going to look for an additional kayak entrance. I don't know if John made it on the...
He is.
And if he has any comments on that, as he was the one who worked with the boat launch committee.
John, have you heard that?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, I have. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, we did have one site that we are still in the process of pursuing, and that is really where we're at right now. The hope is that we can locate a suitable site that will be able to provide sufficient parking for kayak use. And that really is the driving factor. Well, there's two. One, property along the shore, as I'm sure you can appreciate, is very dear price-wise. But even then, it's the issue of having a reasonable amount of parking for kayak use. So it's a difficult problem. It is one that compromises the boat launch for kayak use. I think one thing ought to be clear there, it's not that kayaks are prohibited from launching there. One can launch a kayak from any of the town property, I do believe. However, there is no parking. And that is what complicates the use of that area for paddlecraft.
So if people didn't need to park there, if people just came there, unloaded, and weren't parking there, then it would be allowable to have kayaks there? At the-
Absolutely. People
the
could
launch-
carry them from properties close by if they wish to. That's never been prohibited.
Yeah, I just want to remind us too that we do have reservations, and so we just have to be conscious of the people who've reserved a space for their launch as well, and work within those boundaries.
Okay, and how does the
Exactly. You'd want to give,
oh, good, sorry.
Go ahead,
sorry?
John.
John, can you repeat what you said?
I was just agreeing with Lori.
Oh, okay.
And how, is the reservation system through the town website or phone call or the website?
Yes, for Powerboat, for access to the launch, it is available through the website to registered to residents within Kennebunkport.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Just before we go forward, I want to recognize that John is participating remotely, and that his attendance is here remotely, right, John?
Correct.
And can you take his attendance?
Yes, I can.
John, are you here?
John, are you here?
Present.
Yep, good. Okay,
So before we leave public forum, I just am going to ask Eric LaBelle to come up and give the board and the public just an update on the wastewater treatment plant issue that has been
In the news.
very active over the last week.
Yes, so it's been determined that we've lost a lot of our microorganisms at the plant. So what we've been doing is reseeding the plant. So we've been taking basically microorganisms from another plant that's currently active and moving those over to our plant. So taking those and seeding, if you will, to start to regrow our microorganisms at the treatment plant. That's been determined to be the best approach right now, or our best approach right now, because of this basically massive die-off of our microorganisms. So what we've been doing is actually going to Sanford and bringing their mixed liquor, as we call, which is their microorganisms, and putting them into ours. So we brought over about 22,500 yesterday, and tomorrow we'll probably,
22,500 gallons, not microorganisms.
yes, gallons. There's probably a lot more microorganisms.
hopefully.
Yeah, gallons from there, and tomorrow we're gonna go back and grab another 10,500 and seed again. So we wanted to look at it today. Things look better today. However, we're waiting for it is to replicate, for those microorganisms to replicate and start taking hold.
So why did this happen?
So we don't really have a great reason or an idea. We don't really know why it happened. This is a very rare occasion. It typically happens if somebody may have sent some kind of chemical down through the sewer system. We're not a large sewer system, so we don't have a lot of dilution for us. And so if somebody had sent down possibly a caustic or a pesticide or something down to the treatment plant, we're a biological system, basically. We grow microorganisms to be able to reduce the amount of organics that are there. We grow these microorganisms so that they can eat the organics that are in the water. So it's a living plant. So I really it's important for people to understand that chemicals, we have no way of managing chemicals that come to the plant. So people should be mindful of that anything that is, that we talked about before, anything that you won't ingest or excrete from your body really shouldn't be going down the sewer. So chemicals do not belong in our sewers. I mean, that's really the long and short of this. All treatment plants are basically biological treatment plants. It doesn't matter big or small. So what's happened is, I suspect we were hit by something.
So we received complaints starting on the 4th of July. It is not uncommon for our system to get a heavy hit 4th of July weekend. I was talking to Steve Bryant, who's worked there 26 years, and he says always the first week of July, you see a bump in the plant. And so originally, when we got the complaints, we thought it was that normal 4th of July hit, where you're just getting much more load and the plant's trying to adjust. You know, we were trying to address it in the normal way we would. Luckily, we had the help of other treatment plants in our area. You know, we have a strong network of support. Our consultant engineers have been on site, and DEP has been on site and really helping us with this investigation. You know, that's when DEP was down. We learned that it had been a massive die-off of our microorganisms. And so they've assisted us in the best way to resolve that. It does take time. So one of the questions people have asked us is, how long will this be going on?
Right. So we're going to keep moving forward. So the expectation is we should have progressive improvement as the new organism take place. What we have right now is young organisms, and we really need a cross-section of organisms to be able to do this. Typically, we hold on for about 10 days. So I want to say, will it take 10 days for us to get back to where we need it to be? Well, we need to replicate a lot of these organisms. I don't have an exact answer as to how long that would take. I like to think that it wouldn't be taking, we're not talking months, we're talking about possibly a week, 2 weeks at this time. But we want to really check back in. But what we'll do is really, based on the performance of the treatment plant, we'll keep reporting that out and saying this is, you know, this is the level of improvement we've had. You know, so it's I don't have an exact answer. So I don't really want to mislead you, but I want to say that it should not be that long, because typically the microorganisms we hold on to are usually 10 days old, and before we begin to waste them. We actually have a way of knowing that. So I'm hoping that as the organisms replicate and we get the massing that we were looking for, then that we'll be in a better place.
And so we're continuing to consult with DEP. They
Every
gave
day.
us more advice today. We're continuing to test with DEP.
Yep.
So do you want to talk about right now the advisory on the river?
Yeah, so right now we're still advising the people not swim or come in contact with the river. We are having times where we're discharging with potentially bacteria, and we just want to make sure that everybody's safe during that time. It may not be continuously, but I can't tell you when we are and when we are not. So at this time, I would say that we remain with that advisory out, that people remain cautious and err to on the side of caution, and not interact with the river at this time. It's okay to boat in the river and such, but just as far as recreating in the water itself.
Right, and we've been in contact with Kennebunk throughout this process, so on their side of the river, they're getting the information, and as well as our River Harbor Master, Jamie Houts, so he can advise people. The other question we're getting is, it's safe at the beaches? So at the end of the Kennebunk River, there's Colony Beach as well as Kennebunk beaches. Both communities participate in Maine Healthy Beaches water quality testing. We did testing on Monday. Both came back from Kennebunk as well as Kennebunkport that they were not elevated bacteria levels, and so it was safe to swim. We tested again on Wednesday, got those results back late this afternoon, put out a release that it is still safe to swim. Still no elevated bacteria levels at the beach. But keep in touch, you know, keep watching Facebook and our website, and we'll keep giving people the newest information as we get it.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5, presentation of towns' updated geographic information system, GSI maps. is Galen.
Good evening. So I wanted to do a quick presentation for you all regarding our updated GIS mapping system. So as you're aware, we redesigned our website for the town, and so I also wanted to help you navigate to that location. So right on our homepage, we have an icon here for your GIS map. One thing I wanted to mention to you all is the importance of updating our GIS mapping. We are trying to increase customer service and efficiency for residents to have a one-stop shop planning experience, so they don't have to go to multiple agencies and websites to access the data they need to do proper planning in the town of Kennebunkport. And so right on the homepage, you would just click the button. It'll take you to our redesigned website, our GIS map function that you'll see is a little bit different than what we had last time. There are functions, generally speaking, separated in two locations. To the left, there's an area for layers. And to your right, you'll see that there is another little tab that has 3 lines. You just need to click on that. What this will do is it'll allow you to see a bunch of different functions that are available to you. Your base maps are basically what we use for just aerial footage, what we have available. Always click that local tab that's right up there. And you can have access to our 2022 Kennebunkport aerials, but you can also see our historic data is here too. So if you want to see, you know, how the community, the neighborhood has changed over the years, you have access to those historical files available to you. So once you click that on, you'll see that you do have access to all the parcel data. You just click on each one of those individual parcels. Nothing has changed there with that access. You will notice also that the layers features on your left-hand side, there's a lot of new categories here. And so I wanted to go over that with the board just so you're familiar with it. We have a lot of functions that maybe some folks don't know about. You'll see the property map is automatically defaulted, so that's all the lot lines in town. You can toggle them on and off as you so choose. All of our layers too, there's a toggle button up here that you can increase or decrease the transparency of the layers in case you want to see, you know, the structures underneath. The first item we have is our streetscapes, and you'll see that that's usually our shade tree. So anything that's labeled for our shade trees in town are located, as well as pedestrian ways. You have structures. This was always a feature that we've had before, and that's stone walls, piers, and docks. And this one is the beach use agreement. So I'd have to zoom into the beach area. So you can see that some of the parcels are shaded. Anyone that was yellow was a signer to the beach use agreement. So that's useful for the Beach Advisory Committee and other agencies. While we're in this area too, I wanted to show this is a new layer that we have. It is our Goose Rocks Beach neighborhood for short-term rentals. And so these are the areas that are not limited by a cap of how many short-term rentals can be issued. And so again, this is going to help with education of residents on, are you in this area or are you outside and have to be on the wait list for short-term rental? The next one is an updated layer of environmental habitats of significance. This one does take a little bit of time to load, but it does show different parts in town where they're, by the state, has designated as environmental habitats of significance, and this is important for planning purposes for site plans and subdivisions. One that's a new feature as well is your main dune boundaries. So this is the dune hazards, the frontal and the back dunes. And so this is also important for planning purposes for structures and also what sort of state permits that you require as well. So we wanted to make sure that was accessible to residents. New to this year, we also added the growth areas. So this is I'll zoom out a little bit. This area is basically your 3 growth zones and so growth areas, and so that's important for growth permits, the number of growth permits within that area. So for developers, they especially want to know, okay, what growth area am I in? This is now accessible to everyone in town. One that's always existed, but maybe some residents are not familiar with, is our contours. So this comes from USGS. They have the contours, they're not 100% accurate, but it gives you an idea of how high you are elevation-wise in town. So for your property, you know, if you're proposing any different contours, this gives you at least a baseline of what's on your property existing. Again, nothing beats an on-site service, but just for planning purposes, you can see where elevations occur and where maybe water flows from, to and from. Next one is your hydrography. This hasn't changed at all. This is the similar layer that we've always had for the town. It just shows you, again, water courses in town, where they all connect to, and go through the community. The next one is updated. So this is going to be your 2024 FEMA flood maps that are updated. This is the boundary areas of where those flood maps are. We have a separate tab, which I'll be going over with the Beach Advisory Committee on Monday, with the contour elevations for each one of those flood hazard zones. But for all intents and purposes, this helps people to understand where they're at in the floodplain. We also removed the ones that were draft ones. So this is going to be your updated one as of July 18th. Your next one is important to mention. It's your shoreland zoning. So this is where we get a lot of calls into the office about where shoreland zoning occurs. I always want to put a caveat that nothing beats an actual on-site evaluation. And so we do make that disclaimer known to people. This is only for informational purposes, and on-site verification is always required. Reason being, our shoreland zoning map is not the most up-to-date. You can see it's updated as of 2015. And with the recent floodplain maps, we will have to go resend that back to the state for approval and to change our shoreland zoning. But for all intents and purposes, you have access to the shoreland zoning maps, and it gives you an idea of where your property may fall within the shoreland zoning. The other one is your general zoning. This one you've always had in the past. This is the general land use zones for the town. So that has not changed, and your utilities have not changed at all. This is where your fire hydrants are located. There's also wastewater, water utility lines, and electric. They may need to be updated, but we do have them available for residents to see where the utilities are in their town. Next one is, this is the main GIS. So this is their deer wintering, conserved lands in town, which we did update the conserved lands. We did have some more property that was conserved in town since it was last updated. So those features are also available to you as well. So now I wanted to go in a little bit about the functionality. You have a good idea about where the layers are, but I think it's helpful for residents to understand how they can use this whenever they're planning. So I thought maybe it'd be good, since we're at 32 North Street, to maybe zoom into that location. And you will have a few functions at your disposal. One is you have a butter tool, and so you'll see that it defaults it automatically to 100 feet. So this is important for people if they're trying to send a butter notices out. We require a 200-foot distance from that. So you can always change this. You can add it to whatever you want. But once you have, it automatically updates it for you in real time. But once you want to generate a report, there's a button right at the very top. You'll see it looks like a page. And it gives you the options to print in Excel or PDF, or you can do mailing labels if you want. So there's a lot of functionality here to get actual results on who your abutters are for a property, for purposes of site plan notification and subdivision notification. That's one of the requirements in your application. Outside of that, let's say, we're going to go in town and, we want to figure out, how far something is from, the property line. You can use the tool that's called Measure. And so the Measure tool will allow you to measure in feet, miles, meters. It'll automatically sync it. So you just pick a spot on the line, click it, and go towards a structure. And you can see that it in real time, as soon as you zoom in, zoom out, it will give you updated measurements. As a helpful tool. You can click that and make it a pathway if you wanted just follow a pathway and say, okay, how far is this from this location? Those are all accessible to you. A caveat that I will educate the board and residents that are watching, to delete the pathway, you do not use the delete function, which you would think would be the correct function. You actually click the measure tool again and it will remove it. So I wanted to let everyone know that. That is a different functional. With this, it's just a quirk of it that they haven't changed, but I wanted to make you all aware of it. You'll see that we have a measure area. So again, if you're trying to figure out, okay, how big is the fire hall, we can go in here and click the main location to figure out, okay, how many acres is it? You know, how many hectares, how many square yards, how many square feet? It's all available and accessible to you. Other than that, the other thing that people might be interested in is, okay, I have a rough idea now of where distances are. You know, I know how big something is. Let's say I want to add an addition to a structure. There's a draw polygon feature. You can do draw a rectangle. So I want to add a shed to my property. I would just then click, draw down, and get an approximate of how big you think this is. And it lays it on the map for you. You can change the colors if you so choose. There's a lot of functional tools available to you to play with this. After it's all said and done, let's say, okay, I'm good with this. I want to add a couple layers to this to, you know, enhance my understanding of shoreline zoning, make sure that I'm outside of the buffer requirements. I'm good with this location where my shed is. Now what I want to do is I really want to print this. I want to create a report, and that's also something that's available to residents. You have complete access to this. You just click on that print icon. There's two options. You can do a plane map. You'll notice that there is a boundary line locating the approximate location of what's going to be on the page. If you decide, hey, I want to include a layout, you'll see that the viewpoint has gotten smaller. And so I can see that my pane of view is outside of this line right here, the field of vision. And so I want to move that to center it to make sure it's right in the middle of this area that's going to be printed. You can pick portrait landscape. You can make it tabloid side if you want. Normally it's going to default to letter, but you're just going to hit the print map function. And it does take a little bit of time, but you'll see this little pop-up up here, and it'll tell you when it's ready. And then you just hit that print function, and you have a full-blown map that shows location of things, where you're at with shoreline zoning, all your layers, and it's easy and accessible to read by the residents. So again, it's another user-friendly feature that we're trying to really help residents moving forward in their planning endeavors. So that's a quick overview and synopsis of your GIS maps. If you have any questions or would like me to focus on any functional tools, I'm more than happy to help you.
I would ask you to help anyway, so.
Really easy to use. Promise
No,
you.
it's great.
Okay.
It beats paper maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's really something.
Did I just
Yeah.
hear you
Quite
correctly? Did you say it beats paper
Maps.
maps?
Yeah.
Wow,
Couldn't hear me?
I gotta write that down.
Just wondering. Okay. Item 6, authorize the purchase of a replacement police cruiser. Hey, chief.
How's everyone doing?
Wow.
So as part of the FY25 budget, we did budget $55,000 to replace Unit 47. On June 19th, we went out to bid. These went out to Arundel Ford, Ira Ford, and McGovern Ford. Bids were due on July 3rd. We only had one responsive bidder. That was McGovern Municipal Headquarters. They offered a bid price of $43,770.55. They offered a trade-in value of $3,250 for the old unit. Based on this being the only bid that we got, and the fact that this vehicle is on the lot down there right now, I would recommend accepting the bid and the trade-in credit from McGovern for the total amount of $40,520.55.
So moved.
Have a first,
Second.
a second. Any more discussion?
Nope.
Hear none? All in favor?
And you have to call upon John.
I beg it. How about you, John?
Yep.
5-0.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear
thank-
me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Number 7.
Discussion of traffic concerns at Dyke Road, Kings Highway, and Dyke Road and Mills Road.
So, we received a concerned citizen call about, I thought it was about Kings Highway and Dyke Road originally, but I've clarified since then it was only about Dyke Road or Goose Rocks Road where it hits Mills Road. And about the number of accidents there and whether or not a flashing traffic beacon should be put there or some other kind of traffic adjustment. So I asked Chief Simeone to review our accidents and bring that information forward to you.
Great.
So I was a little rusty at this. It's been 6 years, but I did figure it out eventually. So I did go back and pull our crash data for the last 10 years at that specific location. At that specific location, intersection movement, we had a total of 10 accidents in the last 10 years. Just to give you an explanation of what the reasons were, the causal factors were when these accidents were investigated. 2 of them were for failure to stop at a stop sign. 1 was an improper U-turn. 6 of them were failure to yield right away. So vehicles pulling off of Dyke Road or Goose Rocks Road, they were failing to yield right away to the traffic that was already traveling on Route 9. 1 was from following too closely, and then we had 2 that were failing to keep in their proper lane. Just to explain that one a little bit, this would have been vehicles coming in either direction on Route 9, taking a left on a Dyke Road or a right on a Goose Rocks Road, and either they weren't using the directionals, but the vehicle behind them went out to pass them in the intersection, and that car, instead of taking a right, took a left, and so they collided. Just to give you some perspective as to, 10 accidents in one location sounds like a lot, but typically the police department will take anywhere between 70 and 80 reportable accidents in a year's time. So, this would be a very small number in totality when we compare that to the rest of the accidents that we take townwide.
How would a stop sign, would there, instead of, we don't want to do lights. I don't think we want to do
I
lights.
don't think any of us.
What about a stop sign, yield sign?
Can I
Is
ask one,
that visible?
yeah, can I ask one question before, just to frame it? Do we know if all 10 accidents were in a certain month?
I didn't specifically look at that, but, I had May, I had June, I have July,
So it's summer.
July,
Summer months.
August, beginning of September, July.
Yeah,
So it's-
summer
it's
months.
Summer months.
Specifically July. Yeah, so I think that, I just wanted to throw that in there because I think whatever we discuss has to be framed into, that this is, all other times during the year there's hardly anybody there at that intersection. And then there's, as Chris went through, there's failure to stop, there's the yield. And I was thinking about this because if we go down, we have 2 roads coming from the beach. We have New Biddeford Road and Dyke Road. New Biddeford Road, I think if you check, there's probably less accidents, if any, at that road. And yet it's the same speed of cars. You have 55-mile-an-hour cars coming both ways at New Biddeford Road. At Dyke Road, you have 55 miles coming. If I'm looking at Goose Rocks on my right, I have 45-mile coming at my left. So you could argue speed is inconsequential if you looked at one versus the other. The only difference we have at Dyke Road is we have Goose Rocks. We have an intersection. And I think just, somebody that lives in that area and travels that, you do see this confusion amongst people of who has the right of way, am I turning, am I looking, before I turn. So
Yeah, I mean, clearly sight distance is an issue there, because I did measure that too. I went down and measured that with a laser. And, you know, if you're on Dyke Road, at the intersection and you were to take a left toward Cape Porpoise, you have 1,700 feet of sight distance. And if you were to take a right onto, Route 9 and head toward Biddeford, you know, there's 1,300 feet of sight distance there. So sight distance is not an issue either.
I think it is the summer months, people coming off the beach. Dyke Road is probably more heavily traveled coming off Goose Rocks Beach than New Bedford Road, and it is an intersection
Yeah.
versus a T-stop.
Yeah, I think it's the intersection because the road-heavy traffic is New Bedford is very heavy too. But I think,
I just
think
think
it's
it's
the
confusion as to
intersection.
who gets to go first.
yeah,
And you get a lot more bicycles,
yeah.
probably on Dyke Road,
Yeah.
entering onto Dyke Road than you do.
So is there a normal rule of thumb of traffic behavior or supportive ways to reduce confusion?
Well, you know, so unfortunately, I think a lot to do with it this time of year is, you know, people get impatient, you know, they're here to enjoy their vacations and they want to get where they're going. But I think, you know, motorists just need to stop, follow the rules of the road. You know, when you get to a stop sign, you know, if you have direction coming from either way on Route 9, obviously they have the right of way. Whoever stopped at the stop signs first, you know, has the right of way when it's time to move. But really, people just need to slow down, pay attention, and, you know, a couple extra seconds at the intersection isn't going to hurt anybody.
So you think we're okay the way we are?
I do. You know, I don't see that, based on what I've seen, you know, with the traffic data over the last 10 years, you know, this is an average of 1 accident per year. And in totality, when we're taking 70 to 80 reportable motor vehicle accident reports a year, and we're only really having one at this location in you know, in a year's time at an average, I don't see that this is particularly a, you know, troublesome intersection, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So I think one thing that doesn't show up in the data is the close calls.
Is the what?
Close calls. Before Lori got the call, you know, we've traveled that intersection quite a bit, a couple times a day at least. And, you know, my husband and I both said to each other, there's going to be a serious accident here. I think people literally lose their sense of driving capability in the month of July at that intersection for whatever reason. I don't know. I
think
agree
it's
with
just more
Chris.
cars.
Yeah, and I don't know, and
so
there's,
chances are.
and there's bikers too, which I think compound some, as David pointed out. I think there's more bikers turning in that road than there is down in New Bedford.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think you're getting a lot of the bicycle traffic from the campground, as well as the seasonal condos across from the campground. You know, we tend to see a lot of it coming out of there.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
I think we're fine.
I think we're fine. I thought it was going to be more Dyke Road and Kings Highway.
So,
I think that left turn off of Dyke Road onto Kings Highway can be a little,
so I think before we leave this intersection, so if we just tick down the boxes, right? So a light would be overkill for 1 month out of the year, or a
Are
couple
you
months.
talking about a traffic light?
Yeah.
So we have Eric here too, so I'd like to bring him on this, because obviously he's an engineer, not specifically a traffic engineer, but certainly he's had a lot of experience with that. You know, we have no lights in town, but Eric was in Portland for quite a while, and of course, Portland's riddled with traffic lights, so, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so it's a state route, first off, so the state would need to make a determination, it would need to meet a warrant, we call it a warrant, that would justify a traffic light being placed at that location. I know of one place in Portland, at one time, somebody wanted to place, the city wanted to place a traffic light there, it still flashes yellow today, sadly, for quite a large investment. So, you know, we should follow, you know, we would have to notify the state, and they would have to make that. So there are a couple of things that people could do. Certainly, you can have the speed evaluated down through that location. I would caution that as well. The state will tell you that once you do that and they make a determination, they will post that road for that speed, regardless of whether you liked the outcome or not. I will give you an example of Summer Street in Kennebunk. It's 30 miles an hour from in town all the way to the lower village. That was one of those circumstances. The determination was made, but they made the determination on the full length of that road. And if you've driven that, sometimes it feels like, well, should it be 35 miles an hour? Should it be 30? But so that's what I would caution you about if we engage the state on this, to actually evaluate the location.
But that's actually, that happened here on North Street, didn't it? It went from 25 to 30 after they did the evaluation,
Oh, it went up?
right here.
People weren't driving fast enough?
So,
So I think it's just, okay, so we wouldn't pursue a street light. That is overkill. Would we want to engage the state on a speed?
No.
Just
No.
with the,
I would,
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend that we do. I mean, 55 miles an hour is the speed when you are heading west, coming into that intersection. And it drops there to 45 miles an hour. I don't think people leaving Dyke Road really appreciate the cars are coming at them at 55 miles an hour. So I would very much like to see that speed reduced from the fire station at least, all the way to the campground, if not beyond. So, I would be in favor of having the state look at that.
Yeah. So, may I speak? Is it okay? I guess my suggestion would be to approach the our regional traffic engineer on that particular issue and ask, sometimes what they'll do is actually have a kind of a reduction zone, if you will, maybe prior to getting to a location. So instead of doing a full evaluation and trying to get a full corridor, they'll sometimes, if you're going from 45 to 25, they'll want to place a 35 in the middle, something along those lines. And maybe you want to have that conversation and see if that's some determination they could make. It's still a state route. That's why I keep saying we would need to engage them.
I think, to John's point, we are admitting that we have more traffic there. We do have bikers from campground, condos, hidden ponds, all mysteriously making their way across that intersection. And that road does go 55. Once you cross the intersection, drops down to 45, then it hits 35, and then by the time we're into Cape Porpoise, we're going 20 or 25.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
So I think, so if it's reasonable to the rest of the board, I think I'm with John on terms of at least could we look at it to see what the state comes back with. It's a point in time, so we wouldn't want to do anything to sacrifice the rest of the year, but also we do acknowledge in the town that we're slowing down on that whole road as we're entering into Cape Porpoise. So should we slow down before we get to the beach?
is that something you want to make a motion on?
Yeah, so I would like to make a motion to have
Eric?
Eric.
No, sure. I will. I mean, I can speak to the state, and at least engage them in the conversation.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to have Eric engage his contact within the state to at least open the dialogue to point out a point in time issue that we have and to see if a speed reduction in that area would make any sense.
Second.
Okay, is that the gentleman that,
There's someone in the Zoom audience who has their hand up, Dave said.
okay, you want to let him talk?
Melinda, you can speak.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, this is Melinda Anderson calling or on Zoom. And I've lived down Route 9 my entire life, so over 50 years. And I did bring attention to the state 3 years ago of my concern of that intersection. So, I've heard it has been brought up, and I agree with John and Mary Beth, that if we bring it up to the state again, going through, heading towards Cape Porpoise from the fire station, you're going 55, yet coming the other way, you're going 45. If we could at least ask for consistency, and I do think it's important to make it a strong point to the state, because it's true, on the other intersection at Wolf Farm, it was brought up as a concern going through that intersection too fast, and they went up on the speed. So I think it does need to be brought up, but I think it has to be backed up with, I would be willing to write in a little something, but I think it really needs to be changed to be consistent, to slow down through that intersection. As I say, I've lived here all my life, and, there's been a lot of close calls. And I did get a hold of the state 3 years ago to change the lines in front of my farm stand, because with all of the bikes and new foot traffic, joggers, bikers, it's not like it used to be that, this was a slow area. Now this is pretty bustling, getting busy, and with Hidden Pond and, the traffic that's coming across that intersection, I think it really needs to be addressed as well. With the concern that the state could go up on the speed. So I agree with Mary Beth and John that we should address it and just be pretty consistent about what we're looking for. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. So I have a first. Did I have a second?
John did.
You did.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any more discussion on this? Hearing none? In favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 and against?
Again.
And 1 against. Okay. Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it.
I had a comment that I was going to bring up in the open session. Would it make sense to put it in this one since Eric and Chris are here?
Okay.
It's about the fire hydrant.
But what?
The fire hydrant?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been communicating to Lori and Alan about down at the beach, again, since we're in this vicinity, down on Kings Highway, when you're going down New Bedford Road and you take a left onto Kings Highway, we have a fire hydrant there. It's marked yellow. It goes right from the corner down to the fire hydrant. And so we have several occasions when we have cars parked or landscapers for various reasons. That is a highly congested area, and, that's understandably, rightfully so. We have parking all over with people dropping off for the beach. But we have problems. There's 2 problems. One is we have people in front of a fire hydrant, and the houses beyond that part only have the red fire hydrants. So if we ever ran out of water from a water truck from the fire, we'd have to run the hose back to that yellow and blue fire hydrant. So we'd like to make sure that access is maintained there permanently. And then the second part is when people park there, you lose the line of sight to come around the corner. So if somebody comes around the corner from New Bedford Road on the Kings Highway heading towards the Little River, they're actually coming right into the car lane. There's only one lane left then. And then we have little kids on bikes, we have people dropping off for the beach, and so that is just a hot spot. It's not about the parking, it's not about the people going to the beach. That's all, should happen, rightfully so. It's just about security and safety, making sure that we have access to the fire hydrant. So people park there, people get tickets there. That doesn't seem to be stopping people. So is there, so what I wanted to understand is, for things that are safety issues at this level, do we institute, I don't know, I'm making stuff up now. I don't do this for a living. Do we institute a higher fine to make it extremely painful? Do we tow? Because tickets are not clearing this path. People just accept the tickets and continue to park.
Sure. So, at least since I've been involved with the police department, our standard practice has been to obviously issue a parking ticket. If there is a clear, present safety concern, or, concern about access, a concern about getting emergency vehicles through, we would tow at that point. But we've always kind of erred on the side of issuing a ticket first. We kind of tow as a last resort, but we would tow if there was a safety concern or an access concern.
Is there a sign or anything that says might be towed or whatever?
I'd have to go down and look at it. I don't recall there being one there, Alan,
No,
but I can't.
It's just a no parking, there's no towing, but
I think it's just a yellow line on the road.
And
if
how
I
much are
remember.
the fines what is the fine down that way?
The fine right now, I think it's 60, I sent you the schedule the other day, it's $65. And then if it's not paid within the first 30 days, it goes up $20, so.
Okay. So maybe we might be able to, probably put a tow sign there.
Well, they know they're not supposed to park in front of a
Right,
fire hydrant. And if they're
They
parking
do.
there, they're parking because they know they're not supposed to be parking. So another sign, I'm not sure is going to help. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think a tow sign does help. I'm not gonna park, I wouldn't park there in front of a tow sign.
You wouldn't park in front of a fire hydrant.
so I think so if I can just, so let's just set the scene. It's a very hot day. I just bought a beach pass. I can't find a parking spot. I've got 2 kids in the back screaming, and I want to park my car. I'm going to park there, and they're parking there. And then all they do is get a ticket, and they're like, you know what? My risk reward, it's okay. I'll take that one, and I'll just go to the beach. But I'm, so we do get tickets for various reasons down there. I'm really just hung up about the fire hydrant and the safety.
That's a tow thing for me.
Yeah,
Yep.
so instead of issuing, so either I want to do one of 2 things if it's possible. I want to make it so painful that somebody's really going to think twice about parking there. I want the fine to be painful. And/or I'd like a tow to happen. I really can't imagine. I remember speaking to somebody prior, I coming off the beach, you got little kids, your car's gone, that's not a good, happy day. But again, this is a safety concern, so I don't know how to split this one.
Well, so take us through what happens if you're gonna tow somebody. Do you have to stay there until a tow truck gets there?
Yep, so it's not always as easy as simply calling a tow truck. You may be waiting an hour. I can tell you, on my way into work the other day, I heard one of the other agencies waiting for a tow truck. They were gonna be told it was an hour wait. If we call for that service, we actually have to stand by with that vehicle because we can't allow that vehicle to leave if we've called for that service, because then we are now on the hook for that. So we've got to make sure that the tow operator has the, ability to arrive and actually hook onto that vehicle. Certainly people have come back to their vehicle and the time it takes for the tow truck to respond, but then typically, the tow truck operator will get there and offer them the reduced cost for the response of not hooking up the vehicle. There's a slew of other things that goes with that. Whenever we tow a vehicle, we're supposed to inventory that vehicle. So if there's valuables in there, we're supposed to note all that, have the tow truck operator sign off on it. So there's time involved with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too much time.
What about a boot? What happened to good old Jersey boot?
Ooh, nice.
I don't
The
think we
boot.
have those.
You clamp it on the front wheel and they can't
know what
move.
they are,
I mean,
yeah.
Yep.
Good.
I think the only thing that I would caution the board on that with would be liability. We have a lot of expensive vehicles in town, and, if we're applying these to vehicles, I think, that's something that we would want to think about, because these vehicles have very expensive wheels on them, so.
Does that happen every day?
It happens in the, so for example, on July 4th weekend, it was, rightfully so, the beach is packed. And we're not, I'm not complaining about the difference between the east end of the beach and the west end of the beach. I'm just strictly saying, hey, focus straightly on safety, and specifically that corner, that fire hydrant, that poses the biggest threat to residents down there, people visiting the beach. You lose a line of sight. And cars are very big these days, and kids are very small.
So is there a no parking sign on the pavement itself?
No.
I think there is a yellow line painted adjacent to the sidewalk. And I did think I saw no parking, where we had placed a no parking stencil and painted that. But I don't want to guarantee that. I'd have to go
Yeah.
back down and take a look at that for sure, Alan.
Okay.
But-
Could it be painted on the sidewalk, on the pavement too? Like a different color, rather than just a yellow line? I mean, I don't know exactly where this fire hydrant is, I'd have to look at it, but.
So there is a no parking sign on the pavement?
So there's a,
painted sign?
no, there's a, what there is from the corner to the fire hydrant is a yellow line instead of white. And then by the fire hydrant is a no parking sign from here to the corner. I think it says that. Or it's a no parking sign, but then it's a clear yellow and blue fire hydrant right there.
Right, so how about just a parking sign on the pavement right there? Like, I see them all the time.
Yeah, no parking.
And that would probably help an awful lot.
Yeah, and yet all we're using is paint.
Yeah, and I would have to go back down there to take a look at it,
Yeah.
to see exactly what is there, but, yes, can we do that? Can we section out, part of that next to the hydrant and put a series of hash marks there?
Yeah.
With a no
Like,
parking
No
stencil?
parking, $1,000 fine.
No, come on. Well, first of all, let's let the chief go down, look at it, and then come back to us and let us know what's going on down there and see what we can do.
Okay.
Okay,
There's some discussion from the,
yes, I'm all set. If you guys are all set with the chief?
thank you.
I think we had some people in the audience.
Yeah, I see
Okay.
that, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, chief. Who had,
Don't go away.
Mr. Domine, you had your hand up first? Sure, come right up.
I guess I wasn't really here for this, but I'm interested in it. How about like some sort of like a, those beefy wooden posts with the sort of rail kind of thing, so that you literally just take that spot out of circulation? Like no one could physically put a car in that spot.
Well, you gotta get a fire truck in there too, don't you?
Well, but once there's a fire actually happening, then it can pull up alongside and they take the hose from the truck and they stick it into the hydrant but I mean, if you're really serious about it as a public hazard, just take that one spot out of the circulation, 'cause.
Yeah, it's like 4 spots, and really what happens like when the chief goes down and sees it, it's 2 lanes. And so as soon as you park there, it becomes 1 lane, and that's part of the problem. It's not a very wide road at the intersection. It's wider the road gets wider as it goes down towards the beach. Coming towards Little River, then the road keeps narrowing in. So it's literally
'Cause,
2
like,
cars.
$65 is just the price of admission.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sir?
So I drive through that intersection probably 10 times a day in my work, and every once in a while, I haven't seen cars there very often, but, on busy weekends, yes. And you're right, the issue is that there are parking spaces beyond there, and it turns it into a 1-lane road, so there has to be a place for vehicles to, to basically get out of the way to let other vehicles by. And I'm not sure, but Chris, I think, isn't there, if you park in front of a fire hydrant, it's a more expensive ticket than just a regular standard parking ticket, isn't there? Okay,
No, here in town, it's actually the same. The only one that's more would be handicap.
okay. So, that may be another option to change the rules where, and it shouldn't be just that fire hydrant, it should be any fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Say, hey, if you park in front of a fire hydrant, it's whatever, $300 fine, just like parking in a handicap spot.
I like the
Do something like
$1,000 personally, but.
No, it's not gonna be 1,000.
Thank you. Any more questions? We're all set. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Authorize the purchase of a F600 chassis, plow, and dump body.
Yes, so on July 3rd, we opened 4 bids for this, for the 2.5 ton dump body with plow. We had Row Ford, we had Casco Bay Ford, as well as Arundel Ford, the 3 dealerships that actually provided a chassis, the dump body, as well as the plow. However, Viking Sives, who's a manufacturer of plows and dump bodies and such, also wanted to bid the individual plow and dump bodies separate for us. So when we looked over the bids, we were actually able to kind of pick and choose, if you will. We kind of itemize these items. We're thinking that purchasing the chassis from Arundel Ford and the plow from Arundel Ford, and purchasing the dump body from Viking Sives would be the most economical way to go. Our mechanic has reviewed these, has felt comfortable with that. It reduces the price down to $85,497 combined, which is actually less than all three of the dealerships. So this is actually the most economic approach for us and still meets our objectives.
Yeah. What truck is it replacing?
It's the little 8.
What's that?
Little 8,
Oh.
8, yeah. Yeah, it's a smaller plow truck, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. What's the pleasure of the board?
So we're not sacrificing any quality.
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, they're probably identical materials.
Is that a steel body or is that a aluminum body?
It is a steel body. We did get some bids for a stainless steel body. However, the steel is softer. We're opting to go to steel for
Okay.
that reason.
Yeah.
All right, I will make a motion to purchase the 2024 F600 chassis and plow from Arundel Ford and purchasing the dump body with installation from Viking
Sives. Yeah,
Sives?
Sives. Yeah.
for a full price of $85,497.
I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? John?
Aye.
Okay. 5-0. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Okay, 9, authorize the purchase of automated trash and recycling carts.
Yes. So on July 3rd, we also opened the bids for the carts as well. We've reviewed these with John, and as well as kind of went through and we kind of moved the numbers around a little bit as to the number that we wanted to buy that we thought would fit correctly. It didn't really alter, I don't think, who the low bidder was in this. However, we certainly wanted to represent what we felt the best number was for this. What we did is we went with the number of bins that we thought we would be purchasing plus 10% for reserves and exchanges. One thing in my experience is that people may call and say, I really wanted a 64, the 96 seems too big for me, and vice versa. So that will allow us to come and basically replace, if we have to, with the individual residents. The price also includes the assembly and delivery. With our vendor will assemble and deliver all the bins to the individual residences and businesses.
Okay. So I have a question about these trash cans. So say if somebody breaks one,
Yes.
so he can get a replacement, or how does that work?
The reality is typically someone from our shop will show up, grab the old one, drop you a brand new one, and take it back and repair it at a later time.
Okay.
That's typically how, from a practical perspective, that's how we would do it.
And everybody's gonna get one for recycling and one for trash.
That's my understanding, so.
And if somebody wants a second one for trash because they have a big family, they have to purchase it? Is that,
No.
no?
I think because of the pickup and the number of lifts, I think our vendor, Casella, may have issue with us having multiple trash cans.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when we
No.
went through, well, I'll let John speak, but I thought it was 1 and 1.
Okay.
It is indeed 1 and 1. Now, an individual can contract separately with Casella to have an additional either trash or recycling bin be picked up. But it would have to be a separate agreement between that resident and Casella.
Okay.
So the number 64, the 64 gallons, is there a smaller size, or was that, John, what was the size you showed me at the town days that I could have fit inside? Was that the 96 gallon or the 64?
That was the 64. Yeah, there is a smaller size, however, it is um, only, it's a problem for Casella. The problem is that the automated arm, particularly in the winter, does not grab the 32, which is the other size, adequately, and they end up losing them in the trash bin, and they have really discouraged us using the smaller size. But individuals can always put less trash in the 64 and move it, and they move very easily. In fact, if one has to pull it on an uneven surface, the 64 being wider is much more stable and easier to move a long distance with only 32 gallons in it than a full 32 gallon would be.
So I thought when we talked, when we went through this with the board, that we had, my recollection is that I understood that they didn't want us to use the small ones, but we were going to make the small ones available because we have instances where private roads, people have to bring their trash can down a long road to the end. There's people there's some of us that do not have garages and would have to haul up a container from a lower level basement that's below road. And then there's the issue of storing these things inside when people don't have garages. So I thought we were at least going to offer us a lower number of the smaller ones. So I'm a little concerned that we are not doing that. I don't think that's the right approach.
No, I think to make
I didn't,
I think he said, I agree with Mary Beth. I think that's what he said.
to make this manageable,
We didn't hear what you said, John.
we keep it at 64. I said to make it manageable, I believe we should stick to 64s and 96s.
I think we're gonna get too many different size trash cans.
Well, I don't think, so, we have to be careful here because we're doing something right, which is an automation process, which our vendor said that we needed to go through. When we
Yeah, I don't know
got
if it's right. It was mandated.
Right, which I think is, working with our, which a lot of towns are going through. But I remember when we brought this up, happened to be in the budget board meeting, and there's quite a few people that live on private roads that put their trash cans in their car and drive it down to the end. And so we were talking about making sure that we had an available size that was smaller so that people can continue to do that. And we're talking about people that live here year-round, so it's in the wintertime, So I still hang on to the hat. I understand you don't want smaller ones, and we don't want to make that the mainstream, and most people will not take them. But I do believe we have to provide an option. I do not know how we bucket people, literally, into just the 64. If Casella, or if the vendor has this
It would seem
option.
to, go ahead.
If the vendor has this option, and I know they don't want us to run it as mainstream, but I do think we have to be considerate of our residents and the different situations that they live in our town, and we have to provide a smaller option, a smaller select few option.
So, but I thought that they weren't gonna be able to pick them up, the smaller ones, or would be.
That's the point. As long as folks will start paying for their own when the second one ends up in the trash truck, then maybe we should look at what we can do. But the 32s are not compatible with the automated pickup, particularly in the winter. So it's a rock and a hard spot here. But we can discuss this further as we move along. But I would recommend staying with the 64s and the 96s and see where we are. I mean, it's going to be a learning curve all the way around.
Eric, do you know?
We know that the 32s are not compatible with the system.
Eric, do you know the the dimensions of a 64?
I don't have them right here, but
Okay.
yes, we have those were within the specifications.
It's what everything you have seen on the curbs along Kennebunk, all you see are 64s because they don't have 32s.
And the
So those
same in
are all
Bedford.
64s.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Can we get a 64 in here just so the board can see it?
Sure.
Yeah,
We have.
we
have
certainly
some in the
can. We
town
have them.
office.
Because I think it would behoove the board to physically see it, and then we can decide whether or not somebody can throw that in their car. We have, we
Well,
have
here's the
heard,
point, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
What they're doing now with 32s is they're taking 2, 3, or 4 of them down to the curb. They're not going to be able to do that anymore. They get one trash bin. They can choose their size, 64 or 96 if they have a lot of trash. If they normally had 4 32s that they would have picked up, they've got to get a 96, period, or pay extra to have other things picked up. This isn't something we can, it's an inconvenient truth that you get one bin that you've got to put all your trash in. That's all the town can offer. And if you want to go with 32, and you used to be able only to take one 32 bin down, well, that's someone that we ought to take a look at and see what we can do to try to help them. But if they used to take 2, 3, or 4 down, they've got to use a bigger bin. They've got no choice. They can leave the bigger bin at the street, take smaller bags down and put it in it. I mean, there's stuff that's going to have to be worked out, but it's a process.
it would be nice to see, because I remember I went to last year when we first started, I went to the Works Day down by School Street.
Yep.
And John had one of the bins.
Yep.
And if he just told me that was the 64, I literally could get inside that. That's a big bin.
Well, I hope I remember it's a 60. Yeah, but
So
you
if
could
that's
get
the
inside a
96
64.
one, then, and the 64 is smaller, then that's fine. But
So-
I'm just trying to get a visual.
Yeah, so I would tell you they're probably slightly larger than this, I would say.
Not
Yeah.
that tall. Why don't we just,
Yes.
people can come down to town
Yeah,
hall.
So the town
We
hall
have
has
a
3
few
bins
samples.
there.
Okay.
Cascade is one of the 3 bins that's there, so you'll see the actual Cascade bin there. So there are 3 in the garage.
And that's
the
the 60, that's the 64, right? We don't have a 96.
64.
That's the
right.
64.
The 64, they're for demonstration purposes.
Correct.
So why don't we just go ahead and act on this, and then we can talk later on about the difference.
The few people who are going to need a smaller one.
Right.
So,
Is that,
One
is
would
that
be
okay
me.
with you?
That's okay with me.
Okay.
to be clear, so this, we're not obligated to a number, and we do have a right to change. So it's really based on unit pricing, but for us to be able to give you a price for, if we go forward with a contract and give you a range of where the cost should be, this is the purpose of this right here. But we do have the right to reduce and increase, or even change, I believe, the bin sizes if necessary. So we're not obligated to these numbers. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Great. So how
Thank you.
about a motion?
I'll make a motion and that we proceed with Cascade at the unit cost of $47.98 for 64-gallon units and $51.30 for the 96-gallon units, shipping included. I would also recommend contracting with Cascade, assemble and deliver the units to the residences at a cost of $5.25 per unit, or $35,805 altogether.
You're very thorough.
Second.
Wow, that was a lot.
First, I have a second. Any more discussion?
No.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Thank you.
John?
Thanks.
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Item 10, appointment of the RSU 21 board member until June 2025. Susan Holloran resigned her position with the school board effective June 24th, 2024. And per state statute, the Board of Selectmen have the authority to appoint a member on an interim basis until the next annual election, which will be June 2025. We have two applicants, Bob Dominy and Diane France, and maybe we'd like to hear from both of you. Who would like to go first?
Bob Dominy, Kennebunkport. I guess I sent in an application to fill the RSU position for 1 year. What would you like to hear? Are there questions, or would you like me to just make a statement?
No, just tell us a little bit about you, and yeah, a statement's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just kind of face plant myself into the application that I've already given you, which is that in terms of qualifications and experience, I have actually served more than 2 terms as an RSU 21 board of director. I was on the original board after the SAD converted to the RSU with Arundel joining the district, so I'm very familiar with that whole consolidation process. The entire time I was on that board, I served on the finance and facilities committees. Other forms of service, I've been a board member for the DePonte String Quartet for probably 6 years. I was a board member at Laudholm Trust and chair of that board. Board member for 6 years, chair for 2 years. Member of Church on the Cape. I also go down to Graves Library whenever they call on us, and we do a little bit of reading, but that's a little bit of thespian activity. In general, qualification-wise, I am the founder and current president of Digital Research, which is a marketing research firm, formerly of Kennebunk. We're now on Commercial Street in Portland. So those parking spaces in Portland, those are $40 just for the day. So $65 at the beach is a good value. I'm just kidding you. We relocated our family to Maine in 1996. I had one daughter at the time who was 3, and a second bun in the oven who was actually born at Southern Maine Medical Center. And both of those daughters went through what is now the RSU 21 school system, and they did really well. And one went to NYU, one went to Syracuse University, and we're really proud of them. So between having been here for the better part of 30 years and had kids who went all the way through the system, starting in Consolidated and plopping out the other end from Kennebunk High School, and having served on the board for 2 terms. In fact, as a courtesy, when you serve on the board when your kids graduate from high school, rather than the superintendent signing their diploma, they let you sign it. So I have 2 girls that have my signature on their diploma. That's not really a qualification, it's just a fun fact. So I think I'm pretty qualified in terms of longevity as a resident, experience with the school system as a consumer of service, experience with the school system as somebody who is given part of the fiduciary responsibility for making it work well. And I think it's not worked so well fairly recently. Witness every other person quits after sometimes not even a year. And so now that I have some time, I thought, well, maybe it would be a good idea just to kind of come back and see if we could make it work a little better. I think they have some endemic problems, and sort of a refocus on education would be a good idea, given that it's, what, more than 50%, 60% of what taxpayers are paying their taxes for. So we need to get a little less dysfunction and a little more function on behalf of our young people and the people who are paying for all this. So that's my statement.
So, any questions for Bob?
I don't know.
Bob, would you, this is a one-year term, would you run for the next term at the end of this year?
Probably, unless I'm drafted to be governor or something like that. There's a wink with that, right?
Is that your only question?
I'm waiting, I'm sharing. I talked a
Okay,
lot
I'm
tonight.
just-
I've been talking a lot.
You've done well. You've done well.
She's giving others
I'm
opportunities.
giving others opportunities.
Anybody else? No?
No, I think
Okay.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah,
much, appreciate
thanks,
it.
Bob.
I should also add to this that I know Diane very well, and I know how hard she worked on a campaign, and we get along very well, and we talk a lot about education together. So you can't go wrong tonight.
No.
Nicely put.
Well, I think you know me. Diane Franz from Kennebunkport. I started with the school board back in '22 when I was just sitting on what they call the back bench. And I was observing to see whether or not I saw the kind of respect or discord that had been evident throughout the country whenever there was a discussion of school boards. And what I found was that there was great respect and great regard for not only among the members themselves, but from the community itself. So I was looking for two things. I was looking for respect for participants, and I was looking for respect for the board members, but I was also looking to see how difficult conversations were handled. I spoke several times and was treated with great regard, despite the fact that I was discussing something that was not a majority of the majority opinion. So when the opportunity came up after that time to come here to be appointed for a position where there was a resignation, I did that. And because of the gift of you, I was able to serve the last year and ran a campaign, had never run one before, but was absolutely delighted with the experience, with the people that I met, with the great, a standard and spirit of excellence that I felt might be hard to maintain, but wasn't, because I have great regard for RSU 21 and even greater respect for the members of the board that I've had the privilege of serving with. I was very disappointed when I didn't make it, but I wasn't sad because I knew that RSU 21 was in the hands of very, very incredible professional people who had only one thing in mind. No matter what their thinking was, no matter what their approach was, the bottom line has always been what is in the best interests of the students. And so at my last meeting, we all said goodbye to each other, and we did have an executive session. And at the end of the executive session, after I had pretty much, said my goodbyes, and people had said some really nice things about me, the chair said that someone had something that they wanted to share. And what it was that Susan shared that she was going to be resigning. So I was a bit taken aback because I think Susan brings something to the table that will be greatly missed unless another new board member is able to have a sensitivity to different populations, different situations, and I have a great deal of regard for the way that she shared and the respect that she showed when she shared it. So she asked me to actually go home and talk to my husband and to my mother, who will be 100 in October, and to see whether or not it might be something that I might like to continue to pursue. And so when the opportunity came up to apply, I did. It has probably been one of the finest experiences that I've ever had, to be with 11 other people, plus 2 students, who share a common goal, but are able to also have difficult conversations and have them done respectfully. And when consensus is made, we agree and everyone abides by the policy or procedure or whatever the decision is. I think moving forward this next year, which this position would be only for a year, but has a lot of tremendous amount of work, but also a very exciting time. The new strategic plan has just been approved by the board and is going to be implemented through every single aspect of the school. That's every cost center, that's central office, that's the bus drivers, that's the board. There's also going to be an advisory committee that is going to be formed that's going to consist, I believe, initially of internal representatives. That's going to be teachers, it's going to be bus drivers, people from special ed, people from the nutrition facilities. And I think the integrity of that committee is going to be critical because it's going to allow for us to understand completely and fully some of the things that we hear outside, through social media. We're trying to understand exactly what the issues are, how they can be mitigated, and the best way that we can move RSU 21 forward. There's lots of other reasons why, but my main reason is that RSU 21 students are our legacy when they leave us. Whether we have the joy of having them come back to us, that's a gift. But for most of them, they're going to go to other places. And we have every responsibility and obligation to make sure that when they go, they have the best possible education that they can absolutely have with all their skills and talents. We also need to make sure they understand what it means to be a good citizen. And that's a good citizen not only of their country, but a citizen of their school, a citizen of their classroom. That they have a responsibility as young people and an obligation to deliver on aspects of work that's theirs and age appropriate. I don't care whether they're in kindergarten or they're in high school. And also that they need to understand that while they can demand respect for themselves, and they should, that they owe that respect every single person that they meet for the rest of their lives, whether they're in school, whether they're in a community, I don't care if they go to another country. But there are aspects of work that we are responsible for as a district. And if our legacy is going to send out really hardworking young people who know their role and who can think for themselves, then we have an obligation to do that. And I'd like to be a part of that for as long as I can be.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Any questions for Diane?
I'll just ask the same question Mary Beth asked. It's a one-year term. Would you plan on potentially running for re-election or election again in a year?
I think after having run the last one, I've learned a lot, and I think I could be very more efficient. So yes, very definitely.
So, Diane, what's your, since you've been on the board recently, and we've heard things about a group of teachers leaving, what's your response? So I'm just trying to get a flavor of what you think you're going to be, what's your mission this year, given what we're hearing is happening to some of the teachers and stuff.
Well, I think we need to look at a couple of things, not the least of which is what are the things that are being said on social media and what are the things that are actually happening. And so the teachers are negotiating their contract, and I've not been a part of that, although I had been asked to be a part of it, but then with the campaign coming, we thought it probably would be best to not have me be part of those conversations, especially if I didn't get elected. I believe that our role is to understand directly from teachers, with no fear of repercussions, exactly what they are facing in their classrooms every day. I know that there was a comment that was made that 17 teachers had resigned. At the last meeting that I went to, there were not 17 resignations on the agenda. I feel that this year my obligation is to find out the truth and to find out exactly what's happening in those classrooms. We pay our teachers a lot of money to teach, and that is their responsibility, and that is what we are obligated to give them the opportunity to do. I don't want teachers to have to be dealing with social issues in their class when we're paying over 100 special service staff to meet those obligations of students that have needs.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
No?
Yeah, absolutely, come on up.
We're on the same team. The only thing I would add in response to the question about resignations and so forth is there are a fair number of data points that we know are true, like we don't have a principal of the high school. That person recently resigned. The entire guidance staff of the high school resigned practically en masse. One of the student representatives on the school board this past year wrote a piece which may or may not have been widely circulated, but he himself basically went through and figured out that about half of the teachers who had touched him in grades 9 through 12 were no longer there. So, you know, it's not a real highly functional environment. And I think it would be a good idea to find out exactly why. But I think we do know there are some facts, and they aren't social media facts. They're just facts.
My feeling is that if you are unhappy with your work, if you don't feel fulfilled, and you feel as though perhaps moving to another position or to another company would benefit you better, would be better for yourself, then I think you have the right to do that. I also think that you have an obligation when you leave to do an exit interview to share sincerely what some of those issues are that you've faced and that have caused you to leave. One of the things that we don't have is a very good accounting from people who have chosen to leave. They're given the option, do you want to share how you feel? What was wrong? What would you do better? What are the things you liked? Many of them do not share that. They just leave. And you can certainly understand that. But I think it's up to us to encourage them to share with us what are the challenges that they faced, what are the things that you would like to see different, what are the things that you liked about what was part of your school community. Also, too, with the HR department that we have now, and I know there's been a lot of talk about that, the outreach from that department throughout the country in ways that we probably never even dreamed of to do recruiting is probably going to be a benefit for the school district as a whole. And that's across everything, not just teachers, it's across everything. So I understand that people leave. I understand that, in some instances, husbands get jobs, families have issues, caretaker, one needs to be a caretaker for someone. But we need to know that so that we can not assume that everyone is leaving because they're disgruntled and unhappy. If they are, we need to know that and figure out why and what we can do about it.
Thank you. Any more questions? You know, you have, come on up.
Thank you. I'm party crashing a little bit. Brittany Girth from Arundel. I am also a school board member currently sitting, and I've had the privilege of serving alongside Diane for the last few months or a year that she's been on the board. And I would be remiss if I didn't share my experience with that. I think Diane is a great asset to the board, and the reasons being is she demonstrates empathy, she demonstrates transparency, and she's above all open-minded. We have gone into discussions, and at times difficult discussions, where it would be very easy to come in with a predetermined idea of how you plan to leave that meeting or how you plan to vote, and I think Diane listens. She remains open-minded and makes a decision after she's gathered evidence. And I think it's really easy for someone to say, I'll do all those things, right? They can promise that, but Diane has demonstrated it. And I wanted to share that as a peer, I guess, on that board. She's amply demonstrated those abilities to me, so.
Thank you. This is a tough one.
Well,
It
you know,
really is.
my biggest concern is I want to make sure they're being taught properly. You know, a lot of these social issues don't belong in our schools, or they belong not in the classroom, but like Diane said, we have people to help in various ways. So that's what I'm going to say.
No, I would just say, I think that, I don't have children in the school, but I have neighbors who do, and I have friends who do. I think we all know, we hear, or at least we hear what's out on social media. We see what's in the newspaper. I think there are some issues with the school. I think it is an important vote, Alan. I just think at this point in time, it might be important to stay with continuing, someone who knows at least has been intimately involved in it for the last year and seems to have the respect of the other people who are on the board. That's my thought.
Any more discussion?
No, I just would, for me, coming in, again, it's a tough decision. Last time was a tough decision, too. So it's nice to have candidates to come forward. For me, given that Diane submitted her application, that sort of set a bar, because we did bring her in to the seat last time. She had been, and the reasons for that was because she had been in attendance of committees. She was, aware of the members of the committee. So we thought for our 6-month or 9-month episode that would be a good fit and a representation from our town. She's done that for us. She's campaigned. It was a tight race, so the community spoke, and a large portion of the community voted for her. She just didn't win. So I'm in favor of continuing on, but I'm very grateful for Bob coming forward. I think he also is a very excellent.
Either one,
Yeah, and like Bob said, we can't lose, but I don't see a reason to not allow Diane to continue for a year, but ask for both of them to remain very tight into the school.
Okay, so,
Do you want
John?
to check with John?
what's that?
You want to check with John?
Hey, John,
Yeah.
you have any comment?
Thank you. I've heard nothing but, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, hear you fine.
I'm not being heard. It's breaking up here. I support Diane for the position for multiple reasons. One, I've heard nothing but good things from her, and I've heard comments, and two, I have received many comments to me personally in support of Diane, so that's where I would vote.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to nominate Diane Franz for RSU 21.
Second?
Have a first, a second, any more discussion?
No.
All in favor?
John,
All opposed? None?
John.
Five
Aye.
zero. John?
He's already said it.
Okay.
Aye.
And I'd just like to express gratitude to Bob for
Bob.
submitting.
Thank you.
Do it again, you're qualified.
I just wanted one vote because I don't like being shut out.
Okay, moving right along. 11, consider annual committee appointments. Each year, the Board of Selectmen make their annual appointments of committee members in your packet. Well, I'll skip over that. Staff recommends approval of the appointment list. So we don't really have to read the whole list, do we?
No.
No, these are reappointments to committees that the terms have run out. The only thing is on planning board, we have 2 members who were alternates, and because of changes on the planning board, we've had one person term out and another person who decided not to be reappointed. They're moving from alternate to regular member.
Okay, so we can just go ahead and vote on the whole slate?
If that's the pleasure of the board, with the terms listed.
I'll make a motion to vote on the whole slate.
I have a first,
Second.
With the terms listed.
with the terms listed.
Oh, with the terms listed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I have a first and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? John?
Aye.
5-0.
Aye.
Thank you.
You can't vote twice, John.
Okay, 12, consider license agreement with the Warners.
I never know if I'm heard or not. Sorry.
I didn't hear what you
Picking up.
He
So
doesn't
fun
hear
playing.
us. We hear you. We hear you.
We
John.
hear you just fine, John.
So Eric, do you want to come up? So as you know, we've recently finished the Pier Road Causeway
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
So we've recently,
John, we can hear you.
we have recently finished the Pier Road Causeway project. At one of the items that we had through the construction project was we came to agreement with the Werners on terms of their retaining wall and some of the ways in which the project abutted their property. So now that we are at the end, the Werners have put in their fence back up on their driveway entrance, and the fence abuts the town right-of-way. It sits right on the border of that. They would like to, they've put some Rosa rugosas on the outside of that fence, and they would like to put some boulders back, and you can see the exhibit in your packet of where those boulders would be. So they would be behind the granite curb that the town installed, but they would be in front of the fence. And so both would be within the town right-of-way. They were seeking approval to do that. I told them that as staff, we did not have the authority to allow that, that an option that the board has considered in the past is this license agreement. And what it does is it allows them to place something in the right-of-way. It would be behind the granite curb, so it should not be an obstacle for plowing. However, if the town needed that right-of-way for some reason, we are not losing any rights in that and can give them 60 days' notice to remove those items.
And you're happy with that, with this?
Yeah, that's fine. We should, there's no reason for us to be getting into that area.
Okay.
Does it interfere with any walking paths?
It doesn't. So basically, the way it works right now is the sidewalk that is along the causeway comes down and just follows that curb line.
Okay.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to accept the license as written, or the agreement with the Werners.
That's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Thank you.
John?
Aye.
There we go, 5-0. Okay. Town Hall Building Committee update. I guess that's you, isn't it, Mary Beth?
That's me, yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So this is, again, just a quick recap. We have the Town Hall Committee meeting for options review, and after we have the meeting, we bring in a discussion in terms of what happened in that meeting. Likewise, the public is invited to attend. The next meeting is July 24th, 3 to 5 at the police building. So just to recap quickly, we have gone through a while back, the committee went back and sent out a questionnaire in terms of why you voted no or yes for the town hall. From that, we constructed a list of FAQs, frequently asked questions that would come, and we've put together some answers, mainly based on work that the committee's been doing over the last few months in terms of visiting sites and driving and drilling down into what people had been looking for. So we finished the FAQs. Another part of that is an evaluation matrix for two components. One are the different site options, and then different types of building room evaluations, like, for example, voting at the school. So both those components are being buttoned up, finished, finalized, and buttoned up, and getting ready to bring to the board and also to the public for feedback and workshopping. The next thing we did at the last meeting, again, from all that work, 2 sites have come out. This site, the firehouse site, and the village parcel site. And so both of those sites have gone through the matrix evaluation, and then both of those sites, the architect, Mike and Owens, have been working on a structure that would fit the need and hopefully reduce some size, which would then hopefully reduce some of the cost. So those plans are being close to the next level of finalization, but finalization means that it's just this part of the project. So we are going to come hopefully in the month of August. After this July meeting, we'll know for sure, but we'll hopefully come in the month of August with the review to the board and then bring that out for a public workshop. And we want to stress the word workshop because we are not down to the end of the path. We are beginning this path, and we've got 2 types of options that we'd like input from the public on and the board, and then take their feedback and continue on the journey. So that's the approach that's being used. And then this way people can see live the type of building, how it would physically look at the sites, and then, in and out. Yes, Sheila?
I would just like to make one comment. If you're looking at putting the town hall on this property, you're going to have to also add a parking lot. This parking lot, the businesses in town fought very hard for this parking, and we don't want any of that parking taken away. So if that is part of your plan, or I'm telling you this now so we don't have a problem later.
No, we've heard you.
Okay.
And so that's, I think, the power of the plan of, instead of just coming in, so people are asking, well, why are you working with, an architect, and, you haven't come out to the public and stuff, because it would sort of be a weird discussion if we didn't have something to show. So I think these 2 sites, we have options to show people, and then to be able to answer the question of where would so-and-so park, and what does happen, what happens to this parking lot, and, because there's going to be, and so again, this is going to be a workshop. It's not here's option 1 and 2 and vote. This is here's 2 options that we're looking at, provide your feedback and input.
Well, I'm giving you my feedback
Right,
now.
right. So we'll be very interested when we present the views, the current option views, what your thoughts are, from the business perspective and the parking.
Because if you notice, most of the days in the middle of the summer, this parking lot is full. So to take any parking away, it is not going to probably there'll be a lot of people against that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think we have extra parking down at Goose Rocks Beach.
Unless
We
you
can-
put a fire, unless you put a fire hydrant there.
Yeah, we can put fire hydrants all over the place. $1,000 fine.
You
So-
finished? No?
Yeah, yes, so July 24th is our next meeting, and then the aspiration from the committee is to come in the month of August, and then to have a workshop with the public.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, under other business?
Other business, I have no other business tonight, Alan.
None?
None, sorry.
Mary Beth,
No, I believe I've used all my words for the night.
I'm fine.
you're fine? I'm fine. How about you, boss? You fine?
Yeah, I just
Nothing
want,
from me.
Sorry, John.
He's just waiting for adjournment.
You always forget about me.
so, late on Tuesday, we received final approval from the EDA to award the, construction, contract, to Proc for the Cape Porpoise Pier. So we signed that notice of award and sent it to Proc, as well as contacted Department of Transportation to keep them in the loop, since we have a small harbor improvement grant as well. So we are scheduling with all the entities. We have to invite EDA as well as DOT, and of course Proc, and our goal is next week to meet with them and really start to hammer out a timeline and what are the issues involved, because we've had this delayed project. So it's all good news, but, you know, there's a lot more news to come.
Yep, thank you.
Anything
I
else?
think we,
So the only other item is, there was the desire of the board at our last meeting to only have one regular meeting in July and one regular meeting in August. And so currently, we're lining up things for the first meeting in August. On July 25th, you still need to approve the warrant. And so my question is, what time of day do you want to meet?
What day is July 25th?
It's a Thursday.
Usually we meet in the
In the
morning,
morning,
right?
9 o'clock in the morning.
We've done different things, but
Yeah.
yes, we need to advertise a time, and
9 o'clock is fine.
Mary Beth?
Are you okay with 9?
9
Are you
o'clock
up
on
by
July
then?
25th? Yeah, I'm up by then. Thanks, David.
9 o'clock?
does that work for John Dykstra?
John?
He's already left.
I'm a double-digit guy, but I can do 9 o'clock.
That's pretty early, I know, but, you know.
I know it's a golf day for some people, so,
So everybody says 9 o'clock.
okay,
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, that'll work out well. So that's 9 a.m.?
9 a.m., 25th.
okay, thank
That-
you.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, I'm looking for approval of warrant. What,
No, I'll approve the warrant. Sorry.
Second.
the first and the second? All in favor? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
I don't know, John.
Is this the garbage can?